Back at it again with the white vans. That reference isn't old. Let's see. We are back for One Take Podcast episode. I do this every single episode. 128.
100 something, yeah. Ooh.
128.
Oh, buddy.
This week we were reviewing the much acclaimed and very little watched
Black
Tar.
Adam. Just kidding.
Yeah. We are watching Tar, a movie from Todd Field starring Cate Blanchett, early favorite for many Oscars, probably.
Yeah.
No, this is not a movie about heroin, nor is it a movie about what cigarettes will do to your lungs. It is a movie about a classical composer. It's more invigorating than it sounds.
Cate Blanchett saves cinema. Let's just start right there. All right,
that's facts. Turn that up.
From Thor: Love and Thunder to Tar, my queen has it all.
The whole range. Like, let's get into this shit, man. I fucking love this movie. Right. I'm sorry, I don't want to. I know we do our reviews and everything, but like, y'all just gotta know, man. This movie's so fucking good.
Let's talk about it. Get right into it. Instead of like 20 minutes in when I say that, 1 minute, 30 seconds in, let's talk about Tar. A 8.2 on IMDb, a 2022 film, came out a few weeks ago, rated R, 2 hours and 38 minutes long, set in the international world of Western classical music. The film centers on Lydia Tarr, widely considered one of the greatest living composer, conductors, and first ever female music director of a major German orchestra. It has a 91 Metascore, which almost feels impossible to do. Written and directed by Todd Field, his first film in
16 years?
Yeah, since Little Children in 2006.
That's insane.
So
came back hot.
Yeah, this was a former actor turned director. He was in Eyes Wide Shut a while ago, or in the 90s, obviously. He was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for Little Children, Best Picture, and Best Adapted and Best Screenplay based on material previous producer post. So Best Adapted Screenplay for a movie called In the Bedroom in 2001, and he has just not been doing shit since that. He's like whatever. And now, out of the blue comes one of the best movies. I don't know, maybe of the last couple of years, probably. Like this probably would have cleaned up at last year's Oscars too.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. This stars Cate Blanchett. That's it. Just her.
Yeah. There's some French people in here at some point or something, but
there's a Russian girl. There's some French people.
Naomi Merlant plays her assistant. She has a pretty critical role. Nina Haas is her partner. She, of course, also has a very critical role. There's as he's known to do, a wild Mark Strong appearance. He just appears a wild Mark Strong appeared out of nowhere in a bad wig, as he's known to do.
Horrible wig. Jesus Christ.
We all know Mark Strong is bald. Can we please stop doing this?
Just embrace it, brother. Like, just live that razor life. It's fine.
Yeah. Alec Baldwin makes an appearance, not in person, but in a not even in a NPR voiceover, I think, which is a very. I think they did that on purpose. If you know the events of what this film has to talk about, and I think we all may have different views on what this actually talks about, but the main focus on what this film is trying to say, that was on purpose. I think for Todd Field to put that in there.
Honestly, it felt kind of like the Alec Baldwin of it all. It felt like watching Frasier when they do like the radio calls at the beginning, and you're like, wait, is that? Oh yeah, it is. Like, just purely off voice. You got to be like, oh yeah, is that a famous person? Yeah.
This film has made very little money, and it's kind of to be expected. But a film this widely loved, it's one of the best reviewed films of the year. They have really slow played it.
Yeah, they're gonna make a lot of money once the Oscar season ramps up. They're gonna make some money once it gets back in theaters. People are ignoring it right now. They won't be for long. This movie is a fucking force.
$4 million.
They probably didn't bank.
Yeah, they probably didn't make it for a ton of money, I would assume.
No, not at all.
$4 million has been the worldwide gross so far. But, then again, they are in several different countries, I believe, in this movie.
And she lives a very nice life. Like, all her stuff is nice. Everything is so nice. The cars are nice. The clothes are nice. So it couldn't have been that cheap, but it couldn't have been that expensive either, because it's really just
the Porsche product placement in here is perfect. I want to drive a Porsche now.
Pristine. Like I said, this is one of the best reviewed films of the year by critics, based on Rotten Tomatoes. 92% audience or critics score, 71% audience score, which
they're dumb and wrong.
But you got to look at sort of who is this for, honestly.
It's for those who appreciate real cinema. That's who it's for.
Exactly.
We're not saying that we're better and smarter than you, but we might be.
We might be.
Well, we're not saying we're better and smarter than you if you haven't seen the film. However, if you're part of the 30% that gave it the negative audience score, then we are saying that we are in fact better and smarter than you guys.
Exactly.
So, suck on that.
Look, the message it's trying to say is not very heady, if you will. It's not super. It's not a super thought-provoking thing that it's trying to do. But in the confines of classical cinema, or not classical cinema, classical music, you could fill a well with the knowledge I don't know.
Yeah.
So I understand if somebody goes into this and they're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, what? Like,
just ask, what movie is this? The movie is Tar. It's at the top of the screen, guys. It's literally at the top of it's Tar.
It's Tar from Todd Field. Anyway, the critics' consensus led by the soaring melody of Cate Blanchett's note perfect
Would be worried
performance.
the Rangers traded for Jake Odorizzi? No.
You should be worried.
Jake Odorizzi pitch? No.
You should be worried when Cate Blanchett inevitably loses at the Oscars for some bullshit.
That's not happening.
God.
That's not happening. That will not happen.
There's no Jessica Chastain this year. We're not letting it happen.
That will not happen.
Led by the soaring melody of Cate Blanchett's note perfect performance, Tar riffs brilliantly on the discordant side of fame-fueled power. It's a pretty good review, actually. So, Dex, you saw this first. You've seen it twice. Go ahead, man. You've written a review about this on apollohou.com.
I got to read that.
Tell us what you
check that out, friends. It's very good. But yeah, this is a movie about like a classical music composer, like we talked about. And honestly, like I understand if people go into this movie and they're like 2.5 hour movie about a classical composer. I don't care, whatever. Like I understand that's fine. But those of us who are smarter and better and appreciate real cinema understand that this is one of the best movies of the year. Like easily one of the best movies of the last few years, honestly. Like,
facts.
First of all, Cate Blanchett's performance is incredible. Like
it might be her best performance.
I think that's fair at this point.
With all due respect to Hella and other Academy Award-winning performances she's given us, yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, she's given us some bangers over the years. But I think Tar might be her best. She has to carry this movie pretty much. I think she's in like literally every scene, almost every single frame of this movie. Cate Blanchett is in, except for like maybe like a quick 30 seconds where the assistant is alone in the elevator. But
yeah, I really can't think of very many scenes where she's not like front, not even just in every scene, but like literally like
carrying
she
it.
Is every scene. Like she's not even in the background of any of the scenes. She's
POV. It's her point of view. Like 90. It's her point of view. It's just following her.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah, she's on
like
screen,
the camera is literally following her person.
Almost every moment of this movie, Cate Blanchett is on screen and she kills it every single time. She's having to have these very long, uncut conversations, right? Like, her and Mark Strong are sitting there chopping it up. You're not looking at Mark Strong, you're looking at Cate Blanchett's reaction to Mark Strong, like for a solid 5 minutes, it feels like. And you're just sitting there compelled and learning about this woman. She's telling you everything. Like, I don't know if y'all have this same issue that I do, but sometimes when you watch a movie that's based on a book, the main character has to narrate everything that they're thinking so that you get the context from the book or whatever. Cate Blanchett, she doesn't narrate in this movie. She just does that with her face and her reaction to people. You can get her entire inner monologue basically just from the way that she's looking at people and is moving around the screen and stuff like that. It's an incredible performance. And then the story of the movie, it's really, really it's a lot subtler than, other random shitty Netflix movies, that would talk about the same thing. Right. But the way that they build up this character, this woman who is this genius, right? We don't know shit about classical music, but we can tell that she's the LeBron James of this shit just by the way they set up the story, right? They
or
make you sit there.
At least how she's told you that her story is gone.
Yeah. And they have the dude on the stage at the New Yorker or whatever, reading her bio to you, and it's yeah, she's the LeBron James of this shit, McDonald's All-American, went overseas and got a gold medal, came back, put the team on her back, won 4 championships. You know what I'm saying? She's Lydia Tarr is her. And so you're with her, you're seeing all of this really kind of cool, kind of fucked up side of the classical music industry. And you're oh, this is just like any other industry. These same people exist in literally every facet of life or whatever. And you're seeing her kind of rise and rise and rise. And then it's a story about how she falls and the problematic things that she does, not spoiling it yet, but she's problematic, and that, kind of plays out. And it's just so fucking compelling watching Cate Blanchett be a part of that story. And it just rapidly kind of builds and builds and builds over the second half. And it's just so fucking good. I can understand why people would see this movie and be that was boring. It's about a classical music lady. I don't care, whatever. But if you really want to invest and pay attention to what's happening and why, God, it's so fucking good, man. I love this movie. It's an A+ for me.
And I'm going to jump off of it I do have the problem with movies being just overpacked and overlong. I've said that 1,000 times on it, but it this movie for a non-thriller, pretty straight up, almost wants you to believe that it's a biopic of some sort. It's not, by the way. This isn't a real person.
Yeah, definitely not a real person.
Yeah, people think somebody's tweeted the greatest joke that the devil ever pulled was convincing people that Lydia Tarr didn't exist. And, and she doesn't. That's how lived in this performance though feels from Cate Blanchett. But for something that's as straightforward and almost feels like the unraveling of a person in real time, it plays out kind of like a thriller, almost like a psychological thriller at points.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
And so and some of those elements are pieced in there here and there, and that keeps it, I think that keeps the momentum of it moving forward more than something at the hands of a less deft filmmaker would fall flat, and then it would just kind of be dragging a little bit. This doesn't, I didn't feel like it ever really dragged at points. Maybe a little at the end. It kind of went on a little bit more than it wanted, than it may have needed to. But anyway, Tej, what did you think about Lydia Tarr as Lydia Tarr in Tar?
I was floored by it. First of all, I'll give props to my own instincts. I knew this movie was making Oscar buzz. I knew it was about a woman who was really her in the world of classical music, and I stayed away from trailers. I really didn't do any research. I really avoided hearing about it, which was pretty easy because only 7 people in the world have ever seen this film. And I saw
we're 3 of them on this podcast.
So
go ahead.
It wasn't hard to hide from the stuff, but I knew I wanted to go in blind. I took some edibles. I went in blind. the opening scene is quite literally sets up the entire movie. First of all, the opening scene are the credits, which is weird. And I'm glad that Royden went first so that he could be like, hey,
what the fuck?
Did my theater fuck this up? Or because people in my theater, there weren't very many people in my theater, but one of the guys next to me was like, did they start at the wrong part of the movie? I was like, no, it's on purpose. The director did
no,
that.
I know. I'm learning.
I was like, I know. I've heard about this.
When I went and saw it, every single time that it like switched to another page of credits, everyone like busted out laughing. It just kept going and going and going. Everyone was like,
"It's long.
Holy shit, it's still happening."
It's the entire credits.
Which you have to know that your movie is about to be fucking phenomenal if you make people sit through 5 minutes of credits before the film starts. Like, you have to know what you're sitting on. You have to know you just made a classic, and so you're just like, y'all can wait, you'll be fine.
It's quite literally the opposite of the Marvel approach, where it's like, we'll give you a little teaser here at the end of this maybe mid movie.
Yes.
So you watch all of the people that helped make this movie. We're like, no, we know our shit is fire. Here's who made it.
So
just the heat check. Like, this movie premiered at Venice, I want to say, and it's like all these rich ass people flew to Italy. They're sitting here watching your movie, and you're like, hold on, bros.
Hold on,
we're about to get through the whole fucking credits right the fuck now at the beginning. Y'all got to see this shit. Y'all got to see who made this movie.
You sit credits, and I'm sitting there, and I obviously don't know anything about this movie, and I'm like, get a load of this guy. Super douchebag director is putting the credits at the beginning of the film, but I was ready for it, so who cares? All right, cool. We get through the credits. The opening scene, there's so much that this movie tells you throughout the movie as you're learning more and more about this person that it's so subtle. They do such a good job of slowly giving you little tidbits about this person and letting you come to your own conclusions, which is a very genius way to present a movie, especially a movie around these sensitive topics and like the world that we live in. You hear the bio. Okay, this person is everything to do in the world of classical music. Okay, understood. Then they're reading the bio, and the assistant girl is mouthing the bio word for word, which me sitting in the theater didn't make me think anything, but obviously they're trying to show you this bio was written by her people. Like, the dude from the New Yorker is not giving her this bio. The conversation, because it starts off, this is not a spoiler. It starts off, she's being interviewed by the New Yorker because she's about to have a big crowning achievement in her professional career. So she's being interviewed by the New Yorker. He reads this long-ass bio about all these amazing things that she's accomplished. And the first question he asked her, he looks at her and he says, I see that when I was listing off your accomplishments, you kind of scoffed at it. Like, are you embarrassed of these accomplishments? Now, that seemed genuine, and it seemed like a good way to start the conversation. But going back and thinking about it, she wrote that. So this conversation, the first interaction we ever see of this person is her acting like she's shy and like she doesn't like hearing her own accomplishments when she wrote it. Like, you put this out here. You knew they read this before all of your interviews. The assistant has run this by you. You know this shit word for word, and you're still acting fake humble on stage. But you don't pick that up at the beginning. You just think that, okay, she's humble about her beginnings. They have this amazing conversation about what inspires music, what music really means. And you don't have to be a classical music fan to understand that she knows what the fuck she's talking about. She's passionate about what she's talking about. She has done her research. She has studied this genre through and through. She knows all the names that you need to know to show that you're an expert. And it's a very compelling conversation coming from somebody who doesn't know or care about classical music at all. It is a super compelling conversation. It is also like a 7-minute scene of just a conversation.
Long.
So I'm like, this is weird. This is like watching a play. It's like just two people having a conversation for 7 minutes. You start your movie with this long ass scene. So you realize, okay, she is her. I'm extremely drawn to her. She is very compelling. She is her at what she does. She seems humble. Like, you are on the side of Lydia Tarr. And I think everybody watching that first scene is on the side of Lydia Tarr. There are things that happen throughout the film where everyone's going to jump off the bandwagon of Lydia Tarr, but it will happen for everybody at a different point. Yep. The best scene, what Sean Fennessy has called the best movie scene of the year, and I'm inclined to agree, there's a scene where she's in class teaching students, and they're having a dialogue about music and about classical music, and one of the students, based on his identity, is offended by one of the musicians they're talking about because he's got a sordid past. Bach. So he's saying, I don't really fuck with Bach. Bach, we canceled Bach. We off that shit. I actually listen to other shit. I don't listen to this. I don't listen to the R. Kelly album that you love from 50, 100 years ago. Like, fuck R. Kelly. I don't care how good TP2 was. I don't care how good 12 Play was. We're over R. Kelly. We canceled him. So she's having this dialogue with him back and forth about why you should view Bach as just his singular, just view his career, like the things that he was able to accomplish, the music that he was able to create, the effect he's been able to have on music and his legacy have little to nothing to do with how he lived his personal life. And in that moment, obviously you thinking, okay, the kid's right. But in the moment, especially when the conversation starts, there are going to be people in every movie theater in America who are still on her side through different parts of that conversation because she's so compelling.
She fried him young. I was
she's
like, that
so
was
compelling. And so then it gets more and more kind of aggressive, but she's in the middle of this. She's singing songs. She's sitting at the piano. She's playing notes of Bach. She's singing. First of all, I'm like, oh my God, we are in for a Cate Blanchett superheat check because we're sitting again in another 10-minute scene where I can't take my eyes off the screen, even though it's just Cate Blanchett monologuing. The kid barely says anything. Cate Blanchett's just talking for 10 minutes, and she's very compelling. She has control of this classroom, and she has control of this movie theater because she is crushing this shit. And then that's where you kind of start to see maybe she's not the best person, and then things start to devolve. The way this movie is shot is beautiful. Every shot is just so captivating. The sound of this movie, obviously, because it's a movie about music, is just amazing. The way they're using, there's so many different little storylines going on. Lydia Tarr is like haunted by sound. So there'll be times where she's literally being haunted, but she's really being haunted by how big of a piece of shit that she is. You start to realize that the reason why she cares about the legacy of Bach or anybody else who is quote unquote canceled is that she has to come to grips with the fact of things that she has done in her past. And she just wants to stand for her music. She is a legend in this space. But then you start to realize she's kind of created her own legend. It's myth making. There's no one legend. There's a million people that help her do the things that she does. And so some of these scenes will stick in my brain forever. The scenes where she's leading the orchestra, where she's practicing, are just some of the most beautiful movie scenes I've seen in ages. Just seeing all the instruments, just seeing how she stops people in the middle of a note and says, no, do like this. She's like, I kept forgetting that it was Cate Blanchett, who's an actress who does not conduct orchestras. She was so compelling.
She's like speaking in German. She's like, no. Like, da, 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 da. It's so fun. It's incredible.
She's doing everything. She's singing notes. She's playing instruments. It's a very physical performance. She's running. She's boxing. She's doing stuff to people that I won't mention because it's a spoiler. It's a very physical performance, and it's just like it. She had to give everything to give us this performance, and she did. This is an A+. This is the best movie I've seen this year. With all due respect to Everything Everywhere All at Once, this is real cinema. It's going to win awards all over the board. The sound is incredible. Some of the shots that they were able to capture are just some of those beautiful shit you can see on a movie screen. And it's not like Royden was saying. It's not like a intellectually difficult movie to grapple with. It's more difficult to grapple with of where your feelings are at any given time about this person. And you have to confront yourself about why you feel the way that you feel at the given time about the character. And that journey was so fun for me. I had so much fun checking in with myself and saying, how do I feel about this character? How do I feel about what she's doing now? Is she really a genius? Like, I had so much fun further answering those questions, and they give you these little tidbits to where you have to keep reconsidering those questions. I thought it was perfect. I know some people have some issues with it. I thought it was perfect. I had the greatest time in the movie theater. I would recommend everybody go see this in the loudest movie theater you can go to because the sound will blow your head off.
Yeah, if you can see it in Dolby, go ahead and do it.
A+. Do that. Cate Blanchett's performance is good because there are parts where she's speaking in German and like they don't subtitle it.
They don't even subtitle it, and it doesn't matter.
I still know exactly what she was saying, like just because of like the way she was moving and talking with her hands and like her facial expressions. It's like, yeah, I can speak a little bit of German now. I know what you're saying. I
wouldn't be surprised if she's just fluent. Like she's just fluent in like 3 languages because of this film. I give it an A+. I was going back and forth on where it stood for me in the pecking order. I need to rewatch both films, I think, but right now I just had such a better, like I felt better coming out of Everything Everywhere All at Once. I didn't necessarily feel great coming out of this movie, but I didn't feel bad. But I just kind of this movie, like makes you answer some questions that you have about that you may not have known about yourself.
Mhm.
And that is kind of the whole message is kind of the world that we live in. Like, how do we reckon with genius? How do we deal with a person's body of work next to what they've done in the world, as
Yeah,
a
how do you treat all
as
the
a member of
problematic faves?
society? Yeah, how do you treat? Yeah, I don't want to call anybody out, but subscribe an artist that you love that has fucked things up. You know what I mean? And so it and that is something that as a culture we have been dealing with for the better part of a decade.
We're still
So
trying to figure out the answers to how
yeah,
what our society does with these people. We're still trying to figure
right.
it out.
Like, how do we reckon with uh, people that, well, not for nothing, people that have passed almost sort of get a pass, like they were
Yeah.
talking about Bach in this. People that are still alive, how are we reckoning with? Okay, to call out names, how are we reckoning with Kevin Spacey's body of work? How are we reckoning with Louis C.K.'s body of work, as they were mentioning, Teach, like you said, in the big picture? Like, how are we reckoning with just people that have done brilliant work and furthered whatever work that they are in, but
Cate Blanchett won an Oscar in a Woody Allen movie. Like,
right? No,
this
yeah,
stuff
that's
is
the whole
so
thing.
poignant. Like, this stuff is so poignant.
And
wow.
So how do we reckon with that? And this is like the first movie to actually kind of nail it, because it really doesn't pick sides.
Not at all.
Necessarily. It makes you want to figure out for yourself how you feel about this. And like you said, Teach, there are different points in the movie when the first time when she's going off on that guy, I was like, she's gonna get in trouble for this, but the acting is so compelling, and the acting is so compelling that I texted you, Dex. I was like, fried his ass. That was my initial reaction.
I'm gonna say it. I was sitting there low key, like she kind of spitting a little bit. Not gonna lie,
she got some bars off. Like, she got some bars off for real.
Like, that's like the kid is kind of fucking up, like whatever lesson that she's teaching about conducting or whatever, and she like stops the whole class and is like, basically, like, okay, first off, fuck is wrong with you? Why are you conducting this bullshit?
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, why are you conducting this bullshit? And he's like, I don't fuck with Bach, so I'm trying to like only conduct the more modern, kind of feminist stuff or whatever. And she like goes on this whole journey with this kid. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the music is the music. Like, I don't give a fuck about what Bach was doing in his personal life, who he was fucking back in the 1500s or whatever. Like, the music is what I care about, and all this other shit. And it's like, I get it. Like, it's kind of fucked up that you're picking on this kid like this, but I get what you're saying. And it's kind of fucked up that the kid was just like, I can't handle it. Like, you broke me. I'm out. Like, it's like a Juilliard, bro.
Called her a bitch and left. Like, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, come on. Come on.
But also, he was right to leave, but she was getting bars off. But she was digging in the knife and then twisting it like she was. Yeah, she had already made the point. Like,
after a certain amount of time, I knew that like this is the critical scene. And the scene basically sums up the whole movie, from the conversation that they're having in it, from how it escalates to a certain point and just explodes after a certain point. The scene is basically the entire movie. And the movie just continues to unravel her personal life down the road. But you watch that one scene, you're like, I immediately was like, oh, this is what this movie is about. Even not having gone into it knowing nothing. You know what I mean? And
it kind of did like the whole Prestige thing where like Michael Caine's telling you what a magic trick is, and then that's what the movie is. Like, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I would say I don't know if it's a perfect film. I would say that it is a Cate Blanchett masterclass, and it is all her all the time. Like, I think the woman that plays her partner, trying to remember her name, sorry, Nina Haas, is good. I also think Noemi Merlant is good as well.
Yep.
But there's no like standout good supporting performance. Like, no one else is, I don't think, going to be
no one's gonna be
nominated
nominated.
acting.
Yeah, they're all good, but they don't have enough to do to be.
No,
Yeah.
this is Cate. This is a Cate. She's basically giving, like, moving through. It's very Shakespearean. Like, there's just someone, like, she's just giving monologues at points, but it never feels like, oh shit, she's just talking at us. Like, it all feels so relevant. It's also really, really well written. Like, the dialogue is just very good.
Yep.
Even when she's having when she sits down with the banker dude, who, like, you can tell, like, he wants her to co-sign him as, like, a director, but he
Also
really is just like the money man.
Weird
Super
character,
weird.
Mark Strong. Like, are you a banker or are you a conductor? What is?
He's a
Like, how
banker
he's
who
supposed-
wants to be a conductor. He's trying to get like her.
So
But
is
he
that
must-
very
he must
ending
stink.
scene? Is that very ending scene like we believe that actually happened? Like, that's not a psychotic break or something like that?
I take it that actually happened.
Yeah, I take it as literal. Yeah,
I took it as literal too, and we'll get into spoiler territory here in like 2 seconds. Okay, actually, let's cut
Right
it
now.
there. If you haven't seen Tar, go see it. It's only probably going to be in your local theater for like maybe another week before it starts to like disappear and just stay in the bigger cities. So go see Tar while you can. Spoiler territory. So that very ending scene, or not very ending scene, sorry, the penultimate scene where she has that freak out. So he's also a conductor too? Like,
yeah,
that
he
was
is
weird.
also a conductor.
He was already a conductor, but he wasn't on her level. So she is his mentor as a conductor, but he bankrolls her projects. So he really is the banker. That's why she cares about the relationship. And he wants to conduct, but he can never be on her level. In that first conversation, he says, when she starts to give him ideas, he says, like, I'll mind my station. Like, I know my place. And so because they got rid of her, they went to him. And so that's why he was the one who was doing it.
Yeah, but they didn't do a really, like, I understood that he wanted to try and do, like, he was obsessed with her and wanted to try and do something like that. But it also just felt like he was just like an investor. So seeing him pop up at the very end and her like
attacking him.
attacking him like Roman Reigns like spear, like at the very end.
Pretty good form tackle too.
Yeah, exactly. It felt was like, oh, well, that's kind of a jump, don't you think? Like,
I love that scene so much, especially watching it the second time, because like the first time I watched it, I was just kind of like, okay, what's going on? I'm not really sure what's happening. Is she canceled? Is she not? Why is she at this show? Because like the dude in the back, like backstage playing the like whatever instrument that was, he like paid her no mind at all. He's just doing his job, like everything is normal. And then it shows Cate Blanchett, and you can see like her hair is kind of fucked up, and it's like, I don't know if that's just stress. Like she was in the bathroom before, like she had her feet up, like in the bathroom, so you couldn't see she was in there. They come under the stall, and it's like, oh, she's in there stressed the fuck out. Like whatever. She comes out, her hair's fucked up. Girl, like she's nervous, like the pressure's getting to her or whatever. Then she runs out there, and Mark Strong is conducting the orchestra. You're like, oh, she's not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
I thought she was about to do the show, and I was like, maybe I missed. Maybe I thought she was like, I thought to get rid of her, but maybe she looks like, because the way they shot her in the tunnel, it was like she's about to do the show, and then
she's gonna have one final performance or something.
Then they show him already up there, and I was like, wait a second, oh shit, she's crashing this.
She tackles this man. I was like, oh.
So it's like that. Okay.
Seeing her slip into mania, like when she has the hard fall, she lies about getting beat up, and she shows up to class the next day. I'm just like, bro, like she literally can't go through the class. Like her body is just like she's like manic, and it got so crazy. But you learn so much about her in these little moments when the neighbors knock on the door and they're like, hey, like we're selling the place, but you're being too loud. And like they're like, we can hear your music, and she thinks they're like thanking her. She's like, oh, you're welcome. Like she literally is like, you know how much the value of the noise that I make is worth.
Yeah, do you know who I am?
You're welcome. You're welcome that you get to
even-
hear this.
I even interpreted that as sort of almost like her coming to grips with her reality when she saw the woman fall out of bed, obviously, and then being carried out in a stretcher. I mean, obviously dead in a body bag, like almost coming to grips with her own mortality of sorts, and like you're gonna die alone sort of thing.
Yep.
And this is how everyone dies, and you're not special in that way. And that's why I kind of thought that she had a mental break, because it was like they didn't give a shit about their mother, until they showed up, to sell her apartment. And so that's where I thought
you had your mom
break.
and your crazy ass sister over here. Like,
yeah,
she didn't even say when she passes the guy in the hall after she sees the body bag go by. She literally doesn't even say my condolences or anything. She just looks at him and walks away. Like, she just like, all right, let me go start my day. Like,
not gonna lie,
the eye version of damn that's crazy. Like, but she didn't even get to a damn that's crazy. Like, literally just the eyes.
Man, tough. That couldn't be me though. I'm Lydia Tar. So I did think towards the very end, like after the whole downfall, like with Mark Strong, and it did to me. I didn't ever feel like Dex. I didn't ever feel like it was too long. It never didn't. But it did sort of slow to a little bit of a crawl about what these people do when they're canceled. Like there's still avenues for them to make money.
Yep.
And it went to painstaking lengths to kind of like show us that. And I'm not quite sure how much of that we needed. I didn't hate it, but I was kind of like, okay, we could probably wrap this up pretty soon. And it just kind of like kept going with that. And like the final scene is very funny and very good.
The final scene is incredible.
It's amazing. I didn't know it was going to be the final scene until the credits rolled, because I was like, oh, I see. I get it. Ha ha. And then I was like, oh, they're going to end it right there. That's really good. I'm glad that's a really good way to end it. But I still was like into the movie. I never once felt like this movie was going on too long. I was captivated the entire time.
Yeah.
And so when it ended like that, we let off a great laugh in my movie theater. There's only 2 laughs that we had. We had that one, and then there was another random one-liner that we laughed at. I can't remember what it was, but there was a one-liner we laughed at, and then we laughed at the final scene. That was it.
We all laughed in my theater when she went up there and like cussed out the little kid at school. Like that shit.
Yo!
What did she say? I'll hurt you? She just said,
I'll get you. I'll get you. She said,
I'm Petra's father.
If she tells any adults, they're not going to believe you because I'm an adult.
It's psychotic. Can you imagine going up to a kid and, knowing also this is the sort of mythos that she's built on herself, is that she's invincible. You know what I mean? And that exactly. This kid's not going to tell on me. No way. And it worked. And that's the whole that's the whole thing about it, is that it unfortunately it worked, and it's kind of worked out for her entire life this way.
The other scene that we laughed at was when she's talking to her mentor, her mentor guy, and she's like, what do you do with people that had done things in the past? And he was like, wait, has someone been talking about me? Like, I'm done, bro. I'm out the game. I escaped. I laughed so hard at that. That was so funny.
Someone accusing me of impropriety? Or like, no, dude. Like,
he's like, wait. You heard something about me? I skated on those allegations, brother. I beat those. I'm out the game.
I'm out.
Those allegations.
I'm out. I'm writing my book. Don't ask questions about me. I loved all of that stuff. When she goes home to New York and you find out her name is like Linda, whatever.
Love that. That was
amazing.
Besides the obvious Juilliard scene, that was to me the most poignant part of the movie. And it's
her brother is just like, oh, look at you, you're up here.
It's been done a little bit before, but it hits every single time to me, where she's just like, it's just like some New York dude. He's like, I knew you'd be home. Like, just some dude.
Matter of time.
Yeah, like, how you doing, Linda? And it's just like, or Lydia, whatever the fuck. Like, it's just like.
You motherfucker.
Yeah, like
Over there playing your little music or whatever.
Couldn't give a shit. And it is so good because she's built like she's up there watching Leonard Bernstein, which is actually funny because that's the movie that what's his face is made. Bradley Cooper is making.
Yes,
oh,
making a movie about that guy.
Yeah. So we're gonna examine that guy's life here in about I don't know 5 months.
He was wilding too. He was wild.
Yeah. And so we're gonna.
She's sitting there crying happy tears because she's just so moved by this man's genius.
Incredible scene, and also you realize this man didn't mentor her. She just watched this thing millions of times, and that was her inspiration. But like the way you hear it in the bio, you would think that she was working side by side with him. When that's in question now, because you see that scene, you're like, wait, she don't know this man. She just like is intimately familiar with his art. But that's all.
That's all
that matters to her.
Over and over.
Yeah,
and her brother was sitting there like, you nerd, you fucking dweeb.
just some dude that could not give a shit about your genius is incredible to watch because no matter what we think about, like, because I'm fascinated with watching filmmakers talk about their work and stuff like that, and like to other people, to just people that I grew up with or people that got to go to work every day and everything else, they could give a fuck. They're just like. Who cares what Scorsese says? I gotta get up and go to the factory. Like, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? And that's that guy represented, and I love that because it's just like I could give a fuck about your awards. You know, like you still fucked up. Look at where you are now.
Look where you ended up.
You'd be right back here with me.
Yeah.
The way that they use sound editing, because there's obviously a lot of like very quiet, intimate moments where you're just with her and she's making music or she's playing the piano, trying to get the notes or whatever. And then the way they would just transition to a very loud sound where they would use loud sounds to kind of jump you back in. What they would just put you in the middle of the orchestra practice where all of a sudden there are instruments blaring. We just were in a quiet room and all of a sudden there are instruments blaring. The way that they edited that stuff, the way they would jump the sound like that was just so phenomenal to me. The sound of this movie just blew me away. The music's good, but not good enough to where you think like, because I don't have a good enough ear to be like, wow, Lydia is really her. And it's kind of a perfect job to use to look at somebody's art versus the human, because the way that the music sounds, like we know that Lydia has something to do with the way the music sounds, but the music is actually being played by other people. She's not actually,
and it's also other people's music too.
Yes, and it's not like she's doing interpretations of other people's music, and then she's not the one playing the music. So to the extent that the music is good, we still as novices to classical music, and most people who are watching this will not be experts in classical music. We don't know how important or how much of a role she plays in the art that people praise her so much for. That's such a good metaphor. Like that's the movie. Like they're saying like everybody thinks this person's a genius, and as we hang out with her, sometimes she doesn't look like a genius. And then you realize there are all these other people around her doing all this cool shit, and she's basically created a genius myth about herself. She's created this myth, and people espouse it, and she puts it out into the world. But you don't ever really know. All you know is that she's obviously a nerd about classical music and knows her shit. But we don't know. We don't know if she's a genius. But we have literally no idea. I thought that's so smart to set up the movie in that way. I just thought it was a really smart way to set up the movie.
Which is kind of the metaphor for how we view modern day quote unquote geniuses, is that the way to, I mean, you can be famous and brilliant without doing social media, but like the way that people have sort of manicured their own lives now is a lot more different than how it used to be 40 years ago. So
Nobody in rap has ever been called the greatest rapper alive by a large number of people until they first said it. You have to create your own myths in those spaces. And they did such a good job of showing us that like she created this myth. Whether she is or is not a genius is actually not the point of the movie. The point is for you to see that she did the work to create this myth. And that's what geniuses do. They create the myth about themselves so that everybody else can be like, oh, genius, genius, genius. Then we treat you like a genius. And then we might overlook the horrible parts of your personality or the horrible things that you do or the horrible way in which you treat people.
Yeah, if you want to be treated as a genius in real time, that's how you do it. Otherwise, it's it's
have to
80
die.
years. Yeah, you have to die, and it's
Yeah,
80
you have to
years
die
down
first.
the road
Yeah.
where somebody rediscovers what you have done, and then they're just like, "Oh yeah, I remember." But how was that? Teacher was saying, as us as novices, we may be like actually the amount of people that have watched this movie, we may be the only ones not accustomed to classical music because everybody goes,
Honestly.
is going to be like 87 years old, and we're going to be like, they're like, oh, I love Bach, and we're going to, God damn it.
Yeah, Bach is my shit. Yeah, dude.
And setting it
But yeah,
up
the
to where
other.
she,
Go ahead. I was gonna say the other part of this movie, like obviously it's about like genius and how we treat and all this other stuff. But the other like big thing here is like just power dynamics and how they
Right.
work and like how we treat people who, you know, we think are geniuses or whatever, and like all the quiet ways we kind of like, you know, kind of subdue ourselves just because of like the power of this genius or whatever. Like the whole like running thread of the movie where she's you know, promoting this new Russian chick to like be the new soloist or whatever, and the old one is sitting there,
give a shit about her.
couldn't give a shit about her, but
no,
you know, the
was
other
not feeling her like that. Was not feeling her like that at all.
the
Just
older
like,
cellist, the older cellist who's supposed to be like, you know, getting these solos and shit like that is just kind of quietly like, oh well, Lydia's pushing me out. I guess I can't say shit. Like we can all tell she's like probably wants to fuck this like new girl, but we like none of us can say that. Her wife is like, yeah, I can tell you probably want to fuck this new girl, but like she doesn't say that to her at any point. She doesn't like get mad at her about that part of it. She just gets mad that she doesn't like warn her that there are accusations coming. You know what I'm saying? That there's allegations out here in these streets. She's like, you know, you can keep fucking all the new girls and assistants that you want to, but like, you just got to tell me when you're about to get in trouble for it. Like all this other shit, like the dude, I forget his name, but like her mentor's side piece or whatever. He's the only person who like, yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
He's basically like the second in charge at that orchestra or something like that.
But yeah, he's like the only person who is ever like, we all know that you be out here fucking these like little girls that you keep promoting over the rest of us. And then she's like, what'd you say? You want to say that again? And he's like, no, never mind. I'm sorry.
He wasn't a monogamous, but what did she call him?
She said
misogynist.
Misogynist, yeah.
And he said, I'm not misogynistic.
Yeah. You're like, no, you hate marriage because you're fucking that married guy. Don't you have an apartment like right a floor under his or something like that?
The thing with the assistant is just, it is so cruel. Like, she tells her, hey, I'm going to hold auditions for this spot. By the way, feel free to submit yourself. Come up with a list of people that will audition for this, and also feel free to include yourself. The way we're supposed to read it is, like the assistant probably not going to include herself because she's already turned the assistant down 5 or 6 or 7 or 100 times, right? We know that there's a strain in that relationship because she's always a bit distant with the assistant, and the assistant's trying to gain her attention in her favor, and she can't quite get there. So she tells her, hey, feel free to include yourself, which is not something you tell me only to dunk on me again. Don't just tell me to make you a list. I'll make you a list. I'll get the hint because you rejected me already. I won't put myself on the list. You told me to put myself on the list, and then you shit on me again for who knows how many times, and you just expect me to keep eating that. That's crazy.
And she showed that like with her face, like in that scene, the assistant, she was like, make a list of people who should audition. And like the assistant just sits there like fucking stunned. Like, are you serious? You're not going to give it to me? Like,
feel free to include yourself, of course. And she's like,
and then she's like,
if you want me to be me, you can just give it to me. Like, you literally
just
have
give it to me right now. What are you talking about? Like, I thought that's what this was for. Like, that's why I'm in this position.
That is why I have been basically that's why I've been helping you groom people for, and it's just
like I turned a blind eye to the shit that you got going on with Krista because I'm trying to get the spot, and you're dangling the spot over me only to, like, you could tell in the scene where she delivers the news, you could tell it was the last straw because the way the way her body just crumples, she just like, I can't take another hit again. And you just know this is gonna go badly for her because the assistant has reached the point of no return of like, you have no respect for me and my feelings at all. You might not have respect for anybody's feelings. Her own wife tells her all your relationships are transactional except for the relationship with your daughter. Everybody else, is in a transactional relationship with you. That's a very damning thing to say to another human being, and it just rolls off Lydia's shoulders. She's just like, yeah, well, like, all right, like
I'm me, you know.
I'm me.
You ain't me, I'm me. You wish you could be me, but you ain't.
But you ain't.
No, then that's kind of the message of how it kind of happens, because they have the first damage control meeting where they're like, did you know this woman who committed suicide? Maybe if we just like let it go, it'll like go away.
Insane conversation.
Right.
Like,
and those are happening.
Nobody's really picked this up. Like, only the New York Post has picked this up, so probably it'll just go away.
Yeah, the New York Post. They just slandered the Post.
Nobody reads that shit.
Nobody's reading the New York Post articles about classical composers. You're fine.
I mean, that is definitely true, though. We don't give a fuck about classical composers. Could be out here living crazy lives. I would never know. I'm not.
Hans Zimmer could be doing the wildest shit unimaginable. We'd be like, what?
I'd see one tweet about that and be like, damn, that's weird. Huh. Yeah. Scroll right past it.
What if Hans Zimmer got canceled? Like that's this movie.
First of all, it would crush my spirit.
Yeah.
And second of all, once they said we got to stop watching Hans Zimmer films, I'm going to back away like Homer Simpson in the bushes, because I'm not giving up to Hans Zimmer. I'm not giving it up, brother. I'm not going to be able to do
that Inception soundtrack is fire.
I'm not going to be able to do it.
I don't know about you, but
I have a related story.
That Interstellar soundtrack is banging. So I don't know what to.
I have some synchronicity. I have a related story. This is before I saw Tar. This is a couple days before I saw Tar. A woman invited me out, and so I said, "All right, I'll meet me at this place." So I picked the place, right? So I go into the place, and I've been in there a couple times before. She had never been there, and I'm in there. The music's playing. Luckily, I arrived before the woman arrives, and they are blasting Ignition. They are blasting R. Kelly. It is loud. God. It feels like they turned the volume up by 5 and then played Ignition. They are blasting that shit. And there's no DJ in there, so they're going to play the whole song. And this is right when the girl's pulling up. And I'm like, oh, fuck me. I cannot invite this woman into this bar. She's going to walk into them blaring Ignition, and all these white people are dancing and having a good time in here. And all the black people in here are just kind of looking like, yo, we're really doing this right now? Like, this is like, what we have to confront the news? As a society. You can't these days. You can't just walk around blasting the Lydia Tarr version of Bach anymore. Maybe we shouldn't even be listening to Bach, but we damn sure can't listen to the Lydia Tarr version of Bach because Lydia Tarr's canceled. She's out of here, bro. We can't listen to her anymore.
A girl literally died. Like we can't.
We can't
stop the presses, fam. We cannot. You got to go to Asia. You got to play the fucking.
You got to go.
Play convention.
They sent her ass out of Europe. They said, "Get that bullshit the fuck out of Europe, bro."
Gone.
Oh man, and yeah, and so that's kind of they comment on kind of how that happens is that it's almost it is a snowball effect, but to that same effect, nobody would ever get canceled ever over that butcher job video that they sent out on Twitter.
Yeah. I did not like the decision.
That video was stinky.
They didn't actually have to edit that video. The actual things that she said were bad enough to post online and get some traction. Why did they edit it like that? I did not understand that at all.
Yeah,
like,
that was a weird. There. Yeah, that was Todd Field's like, "How do you do, fellow kids?" Like,
right.
Yeah. Basically, that's what it. Because it's like the raw video.
Is that a Vine? That looked like a Vine.
That shit wasn't in 4K or nothing. Like, it was blurry. Like, what is that shot on an Android? Like, I don't know what the fuck was going on with that video.
Yeah,
at all,
like, hey, bro, I promise you, the kids at Juilliard are way better at editing videos than this. Like,
they have to be.
I promise.
They got a whole film department over there. I promise.
Like, if they wanted to cook some shit up, they would cook it way better than this.
The only thing that didn't really work in the film for me is the first scene. The actual first scene is a phone is watching Lydia and they're typing about her, like recording her, and that happened a couple times through the movie. That stuff just didn't. I just didn't need that part. Like, I literally didn't need somebody recording her. I didn't need that part at all.
It's basically a comment.
It's the assistant, right? Like, the assistant is the one recording her.
That's the thing, though. Too, at one point, it's actually the Russian girl too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a comment.
So the Russian girl knows the whole time about Lydia's past?
No, it never is quote unquote clear who is doing this at points.
Uh-huh.
At one point, you could literally see that it is the Russian, like it is the Russian girl doing it because it's the only person with her. But at other times it could be the assistant. It could be somebody else that is with her at the time. It is sort of a comment, I think, on how we watch these people every single day and how nothing is technically private because you can just broadcast live to everything. It's not
basically like they just don't take her as seriously as she thinks,
Right.
That's kind of like the first
That's a good point.
hint that it's like, oh, maybe these people don't actually fuck with her like that, because they're like, oh, she's trying to be ironic or whatever. She thinks she's so clever, whatever. I don't remember what the comments actually were in the text messages, but it's like
she thinks she's being ironic.
Yeah, she's being ironic. She thinks she's being ironic. Yeah.
So they are like, they're just making fun of her, and they kind of establish that, like, which comes back up later in the movie when the Russian chick like just does not fuck with her at all. Like it's not trying to rock
her no
with her.
kind of energy at all, bro. The Russian chick was just like, yeah, I just like to make music, and she's kind of like, Russian chick is like super young and childish, and like I don't really care about none of that shit. I'm not staying up for dinner with you. I just want to make music, and that's it. Like that's what I care about. That's
she's like the Tim Anderson of cellists, or she's just like, I just do this shit because I'm good at it. Like I'm not trying to.
I don't even like baseball that much.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sit here and study the game with y'all, bro. I'm good at this shit. Like, let me go about my business. She's like, hey, you want to come to dinner? Oh no, I'm going to bed. And then immediately sees her like in the hallway dressed up, going out and shit. Like
with a boy, by the way. Like she's chasing boys. Like she don't want the old ass lady professor. She's chasing boys. Like I thought they also did a really good job. Like obviously Lydia Tarr is very analog, and so the conversation where she has her at lunch and she's asking her like, oh, what album did you hear your favorite your song on? She's like, I didn't hear it on no fucking album. I heard it on YouTube because I'm a young person. I heard that shit on YouTube. And you could see that a part of Lydia died because that wasn't Lydia's experience, right? She's old. So she experienced these things by watching these actual videos of these people doing their job and conducting the orchestra. And kids are going to get to the same point via YouTube. And there's nothing wrong with the fact that the kids got there via YouTube or listen to whoever they listen to. And you should stop being a stuck-up snob about things and let people enjoy things and enjoy the art. And so I thought that was a very potent commentary on Lydia just being a complete piece of shit and not even trying to understand where these kids are coming from. You're teaching them, and you're not even attempting to understand where they're coming from or where their frame of reference is. It was another signpost that like she is in her own head and she's not really listening to these people at all.
It does
and
a good job.
The Russian chick just eat like a savage, and Lydia be like, "Oh, it's kind of
a complete savage." She had no table manners at all.
None.
She didn't care that Lydia was there. She said, "No, I'm gonna eat this how I eat.
I'm fucking
if you weren't sitting right there,
up, brother. Like I don't give a goddamn.
Give me that bread. I need that bread."
Lydia's still sitting there in her head, like I'm gonna still smash though. Like
yeah, Lydia was like on a date. You know, you go on dates and you just like you see things are a bit rough around the edges, but you're still having that conversation of like. I mean, if I get the chance, I'm probably still gonna smash though. Lydia was having those moments of like, yeah, she'd be on YouTube listening to classical music, but I still want to smash. Like Lydia is nasty, bro.
Famous people, they're just like me for real.
Just like me for real. Me and Lydia Tarr, like
just like me.
He got winners.
No, I just yeah, that's funny. She's an EGOT winner. I forgot about that. They just threw that in there. It does do a good job, and I've heard this mentioned other places too, that it like puts her. It does a good job of like putting her, like Cate Blanchett's 50 now, in her 50s, maybe late 40s. It does a good job of placing her because that's the generation that is right at the crux of all of this stuff that had come up in a generation where people ahead of them were getting away with foul shit forever.
Very foul shit.
And so there seems to be sort of they're raised by these people, but also having to appeal to an audience younger than them who subscribes to we have to try to ask more of our creators and ask them to be more well-rounded humans, which this movie doesn't make a comment on if that's good or if it's good or bad, or it just asks you to think about that a little bit more. And it does a good job of placing her in that crux of that intersection. I think is a really interesting thing.
That's why it's so genius to make her a woman, because you could tell that like there's some patriarchal stuff going on where she knows that the people above her who are teaching her the game, the people she's learning the game from, were getting away with foul shit. And so that's why when she has a conversation, there are two conversations that are basically the crux of the movie. Obviously, the one in the classroom and the one she has with her mentor guy, where they have a conversation about what do you do with people's art. And the guy is just like, we separate the art from the person. And you can tell that this is something that she believes. She's been taught this, and she has learned certain behaviors from these men who were getting away with it, because these men were doing similar things. And so she's just thinking, this is the game. This is how I was raised in the game. This is how I was brought up in the game. This is how the game goes. And she rejects any notion that the game would change, because she's already had to take her lumps and go through her process and see these nasty things when she was young. And so now that she's the old one who's benefiting from how the game is played, you can't change the shit. Now I had to learn the hard way what the game was like. And so you could tell that it's like her age and her gender means so much to the story. And of course, making her a woman lets the audience meet her and be like, okay, this is a powerful woman who's doing her shit. And you get to, you probably align yourself with her before you start to realize who she really is. And making her a man, it would be harder to accomplish that. But making her a woman makes it easier to accomplish that, because in the first conversation where she's talking to the guy from NPR, they're having a conversation about how women were treated in this space. And she's saying, this woman, these women were geniuses and they were making X amount of art, but they weren't being showcased in the same way because they were women. So she's already aware of the dynamics between men and women, but it's like it plays out through the entire movie because she learned the game from men and she's playing the game the way she was taught it. And she realized that the way she plays the game will be her downfall, but it wasn't the downfall of her mentor or any other men that came before her, because they're men. So they're
out of the game too. They got out of
the game.
They even go as far as equating like the line that I think is a really interesting line, which is a conversation literally happening in real time on Twitter, is, are you equating sexual impropriety to being a Nazi?
Yep.
Was it just like Todd Field is on Twitter, right? Like that's what
that's what he's been doing the last 16 years.
He's just been
watching
Twitter.
Social media. He was like, okay, guys, I got it. We're ready now.
I figured it out. I figured out Twitter. I will say the things that are interesting about this, and I'll kind of wrap up with all this, is the thriller, almost supernatural aspects of it. What did y'all think about that? Especially the stuff like, I was kind of freaking out a little bit, like with the dog and stuff. And then the one that really was disturbing, like the woman screaming and the metronome in the house. I was like,
dude,
gonna have a heart attack.
Fucked me up.
Yeah, the metronome it fucked me up too.
I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I thought somebody was gonna have a ear before her, behind her.
It became a horror movie for like 30 seconds at a time, randomly.
Yeah.
Like, and I found that like just super compelling and like just kind of kept you engaged in the story. And like Tej mentioned with like the sound design and stuff, when she hears that metronome like just off in the distance or whatever, the way it sounded in my theater, it was like, is that in the movie? Is that happening outside? Like, what's going on? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just so off in the distance, like it is, like it's supposed to be, that I was sitting there like moving around in my seat. Like, am I hearing things? Like, are y'all hearing that shit? Like,
now is a good time to mention that I literally saw this by myself.
There was no one else in the theater?
No one. It was me.
That is amazing.
At noon on a Thursday. I was like, surely there will be a couple retired. None. No one. It was me. What? It was so bad they almost forgot to turn off the lights in the theater. Which is why I walked out and came back in and the credits were rolling. And I was like, what the fuck is going on in this theater? Did they fuck this up? Because they're like, nobody's watching this. It's just that guy.
The first time I saw this, it was nearly a packed theater because it was that weekend where it was only showing in one theater in Houston. So it was me and all the other movie nerds in Houston. packed into that one random theater. The second time I saw it, it was like maybe like 10 to 15 people. But yeah, it's definitely not like a blockbuster situation, obviously. But I wouldn't in there by myself. That would be fucking crazy.
I felt real weird because I could hear Black Adam going on in the theater next to me through this movie. I was like,
Ew.
I was like, man, this is a wild experience. Just me eating peanut butter M&Ms by myself in a dark theater, watching Tar, like watching Cate Blanchett cook. It's basically the equivalent of like watching LeBron James highlights before bed.
You were hearing random sounds of Hawkman getting packed the fuck up over classical music. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was weird.
But yeah, the like dream thriller elements and stuff like that. I honestly thought there would be way more of that in this movie than there were. Like when the first teaser came out, I don't know if y'all have watched it or like seen it after seeing it.
I saw one trailer and it was very vague.
Yeah, the teaser, like the first teaser trailer they put out, it actually a lot of that stuff didn't make it into the movie. I feel like there's a lot of like clips and like little shots in that teaser that aren't in the movie that I remember, but it feels like a weird like thrillery, like psychological thrillery kind of movie. And then watching it doesn't feel like that at all for much of it, and then it like kind of pops up on you at the end as she's getting as she's unraveling basically, which I thought was super effective. I like that.
Yeah. It was a like, what do these people? How do these people cope in their own time? You know what I mean? Because they're alone all of a sudden. When she fell, I thought that was it. I thought she died. I was like, wait, is that how this ends?
Dude, what a move!
For 2 seconds, I was like, wait, what?
Had they pulled an Uncut Gems, she just dies. Like
because it leads up to almost like a really horrifying thing. Like she hears footsteps behind her. She hears like a girl singing.
Why would you go down there? You chasing pussy that bad that you going into the barbarian house? Like
it really felt like that. She's like,
where
looking
the fuck
down
are you
those
going?
stairs. That shot is so fucking good too. Where like she walks in through one door, there's another door next to it that has like stairs that go down, and like that shot is really fucking good. But her looking down that stairwell, I'm like, don't do it. Like stop.
He made all the bad decisions that woman in Barbarian did.
Yeah, literally all of them. You're sitting there like, don't do this. Like this is a terrible plan. Like don't fucking go down here. The bear's not that serious. We'll see her tomorrow.
She ate shit.
I also thought that the Russian girl was just so spunky and aloof and like so childlike that obviously that like she's like that to drive home a point that like this is like a very much like a prey predator situation. And so I thought it was very smart to not have her have any sexual engagement with the little Russian girl, because now as the movie goes on, we start to know this person is a predator. And so we don't want to see the up close and personal account of her finding more prey. I thought they did a really good job of balancing that out. Obviously, we know she is the next target, but it never gets there because she basically goes crazy and gets shipped out of town before it ever gets there. I thought that was a really smart way to set the movie up. It's like very smart.
Thank God they didn't have. I didn't need it, and they didn't.
I didn't need it. So nobody needed to actually see it. We didn't need to see it.
We talked about it early off the top, and we were talking about how like subtle this movie is, but like they really fucking like nailed it. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't even tell you exactly what happened with the original girl, Krista Taylor, who like commits suicide and everything like that. They're like, they allude enough to it that you're like, oh, Lydia Tarr is a predator. And like that's all you need to know. They don't tell you exactly what her relationship is with the assistant. You just like get bits and pieces of it, and you kind of assume, oh, she also like groomed the assistant, but like they don't like show you that or show you them being romantic at all. They like just subtly kind of tell you that throughout the movie. It's so good.
Not to get pseudo, and we've been doing that kind of this entire movie, but not to get pseudo deep, but that's the sort of Todd Field placing a mirror in front of the audience test, the litmus test, basically, of being like, hey, you form your own narratives about these people without all of the information all of the time. So, here it is like, what do you think actually happened? And it's not so subtle that you can't, that it's what did they say in that interview, Tej, in the big picture, that like ambiguity is good, vagueness is terrible.
Yeah, I really like that point because
So
it made so much sense.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what it does here. It's like it's a little ambiguous. You can kind of piece it together, but at the same time, we do that in real time all of the time. Like, all right, this person's we heard this one bad thing about this person. They're done. They're done out here. And that happens. That happens in real time. Not saying it's right or wrong, because, you know, most of the time where there's smoke, there's fire. But like it is kind of an interesting litmus test for the audience to just be like, so what do you like?
What do you think happened?
Are you ready to go down this road? Because we can go down this road.
I cannot wait to. Obviously, we got Black Panther coming up, which will probably be our next episode. Spoiler alert. But after I go see Black Panther, my next film, I'm going to see Tar again this weekend. I cannot get this movie out of my brain. I cannot express to the listeners who have not seen this film how incredible it looks. How fucking it feels like every shot is so specific and so intentional. And it just felt like we were in the hands of a master. It really felt like you could tell we were in the hands of somebody who just like watched a shitload of Stanley Kubrick movies. Like it's like studied these things over and over and over again.
Which is
because it really felt
he
like
was in
Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut, yeah.
And like you could just tell that we were in the hands of somebody who really, really, really dug deep into who this character was. But also did all that work on the character, but also did enough to let you make your own conclusions about the character at least through half of the movie before I'm sure we all arrive at the same point with regards to Lydia Tarr. But not everybody gets there at the same time. And I just think that's it never works like that. When a person has a villain moment in a movie, we all turn against them immediately. Oh, sure, this is the villain. I hate this guy. And they did such a good job of just pulling it out. And plus it's Cate Blanchett.
Charismatic.
She's so charismatic. And I don't know anything about conducting music. That is a fucking conductor. You can't tell me that Cate Blanchett hasn't been conducting music for 50 years.
That's her side job.
The way she uses her body, it's an extremely physical performance. She is everywhere when she's conducting. Her movements are just so sharp and crisp. I know she was sore after some of those days of filming. When she was running hard. When she was boxing, her right jab was crisp. Her right hook was crazy. Like she did everything so perfectly, man. We were seeing a genius at work. It was incredible.
I'd like Cate Blanchett to beat the shit out of me.
Her jab she had some pop on that jab, bro. Watch. She had some pop on that jab, bro. That was not her first punch.
She was getting fits off this entire movie, by the way.
I want some of those suits. Can I have those suits?
Dude, some of those suits are incredible. I was looking, I'm like, I need the turtleneck, like blazer combo. Like that shit is so fire. Like I need that in my life. Once it gets cold in Texas.
Was it car?
Like 2 weeks, need that.
Was that a Porsche or an Aston Martin?
Porsche.
That was a Porsche, I believe.
Porsche? Oh yeah, okay.
That shit was sexy. When they kept showing it in
Lydia
that
Tarr would never disgrace herself with an Aston Martin. Don't do this.
Oh, sorry. It's good enough for James Bond. It's not good enough for Lydia Tarr.
No.
My bad.
I really love the way they shot the car in the tunnel. A couple times when you're transitioning between certain scenes, they would show her in the car in the tunnel. It's just such a smart and well-made movie. Like you could tell that he's lived with this character for so long because it felt so fleshed out. It felt like we got to really see who this person was over 2.5 hours. It was just such a fleshed out character. You don't really get those intense character study films a lot anymore because like we're seeing, nobody goes to watch them
unless it's a literal bio.
Unless it's about somebody who actually existed, because no one goes to see this kind of movie. But for those who care about this kind of movie and those who really care about real cinema, this is fucking catnip. This is fucking manna from the heavens. Good. You can watch this movie 100 times and find something new in it. I was getting Whiplash vibes. Everybody knows that Whiplash is really like incredible. I just everything about it was just so fascinating to me. And not knowing what I was walking into, it was a real treat. I can't get over how much I got my money's worth going to that movie theater.
The only comparison I can make is like it's different, but sort of the same values at the end. Is Whiplash. That movie has more of a kinetic energy to it, like literally, than this movie. Like it's literally Whiplash is literally driving forward the entire time at 1,000,000 miles an hour. This is more of a literal conductor at its own pace. but it does remind me a lot of that movie and simply just music movies in general. But we're kind of going in circles with what we think about the film. But like to wrap it up, the very end of the film, you see her. It's about not the very end. It's like the last third of the last act is like 20 minutes of her going to some we don't know Asian country, probably China.
I wanted to ask y'all about that. At what point did y'all realize that like she was over there on some like total bullshit job? Because like watching it the second time, knowing what was about to happen, I was like, oh, I didn't pick up on any of like the signs that this was about to be bad for her. I was just like, oh, she's in some Asian country, like, you know, doing some Asian gig. Like I assumed it would be a step down from like the Berlin Orchestra or whatever, but I
thought it was just another orchestra in like Beijing or something.
Because they show you them like rehearsing or whatever, like with the band in Asia or whatever, and it's like they look pretty normal to me, and then they show them on stage like at the actual event, and you're like, oh, those are children. Like, she's down super bad out here. Like,
oh wait, like, those were they like I see. I kind of missed the significance of the final scene. So wait, it was like younger people.
Yeah, they're like young as hell.
They are young as hell, and then obviously everybody in the it's like a gamer convention or some crazy shit. Like everybody has.
I thought it was like a cosplay thing. It was right.
It was but like the people actually playing the music like that she's conducting,
they're young as hell.
Like high school age at most.
And they set it up that because when the Russian girl says, you know, I've always wanted to play for Berlin. I could have played in this place and that place, but I really always wanted to play for Berlin. Lydia says, yeah, there's nothing like it. Like to Lydia, this is the only game in town. There is no other game in town. So no matter where she was at, I knew she was taking a down. I knew she was, especially after she tackled the dude. I was like, all right, so she's now in Thailand. And when they give her the flowers and how awkward it was in the room, I was like, oh, this isn't a good posting. Like, this posting is actually bad. I didn't know they were going to have fucking costumes on in the crowd, but I was like, this posting is not good. Like, something is off here. And then, so
they gave her the little like gamer headphones. I was like, that's weird.
Was there something about the final shot where they ended? Is there something about that, or is it just pan through the crowd and like, this is who she's with?
Well, yeah, because the way they shoot it, you see them on stage and you just think that she's doing a show in a different place. And then you see, like, it's not just like a different place. Like, it is a completely, like, she's not even, like, doing, like, orchestral music. Those people are not there to hear music necessarily. They're here to fucking watch costumes and video games and shit.
They're about to go LARP. Like, like intro music for LARP.
They're not going to be thinking about, oh my God, she played Bach. It was beautiful. They're going to be thinking about, holy fucking shit, we got this new Mario game that we were playing and their shit was fucking fire. Like,
this League of Legends tournament is insane.
Yeah, like, she's the background now. Like, she's not even the main attraction anymore. She's just like a background piece to what they really care about, which is whatever the hell they were watching and whatever the hell kind of gamer costume thing they had going on there.
That shit was so good to me, man. Like, what a way to just be like, yeah, she fell off. Like,
but it is interesting because it will say like somebody like we're gonna see Redacted pop up in a movie in China in like 2 years.
That's very true.
Like, oh, we already said his name. Like, Kevin Spacey's going to be in a movie from Shanghai in like no time flat, for sure.
Yeah. Hey man, Kyrie's gonna go drop 80 points a game in the Shanghai Sharks.
Like Jimmer Fredette out here. Oh man. Okay, so that has been Tar. Anything else before we wrap?
Go see Tar in a movie theater. Go see Tar in a movie theater. I'm begging you. You will enjoy cinema. It.
It's not going to be the same on your couch unless you have like really good surround sound, and most of you don't. I know you don't.
Yeah, most of y'all have a sound bar at most. That's not going to cut it. Like, you know,
yeah, you need to hear these sounds. You need to hear these fucking sounds.
We need the whole Sonos surround sound setup at minimum at the house if you're watching.
And it'll be back in. If you're catching this late, it'll be back in theaters right around Oscar season because it's going to contend. It's going to be nominated for Best Picture. It's going to be nominated for almost every award you can think of, and it's going to
Cate
deserve those
Blanchett's the favorite
and it'll
right
be
now
back
for
out there.
Best Actress. I don't know,
Facts.
like we'll see how it goes, but she's definitely getting nominated. And
Carrie Mulligan
will
coming in
probably win.
here like three from the corner, bang!
If you liked Hella, which we all did because she is really her, go. This is Hella times 5. She's giving you everything she's got in this performance. That is a queen. Cate Blanchett, we love you. We support you. Thank you so much for giving us that performance. It was incredible.
Incredible.
All right.
I wrote in my review, I was like, it's kind of like with like fancy watches or like Jordans or other shit like that, where it's like if you know a lot about sneakers, you'll see sneakers and be like, oh, that's like, those are worth $400, those are worth $1,000, whatever. But normal people will be like, those are just shoes. Like, why would you ever pay $1,000 for a pair of shoes? That's what this movie is like, where movie nerds like us are like, this is an A+ film. Like, this is incredible. And they're like regular people who don't know as much about movies as we do, who will be like, it's just the 2.5 hour movie about fucking classical music. I don't care. Those people are dumb and wrong. All right. Be like us. Be smart.
Fucking cinema.
Go support this goddamn movie. This shit's amazing.
Real quick, what we're watching. Anything, Dex, you've seen a few more movies than we have. I watched a couple Netflix movies, but I doubt we'll get to the Banshees of Inisherin. You didn't like it.
Nah, it was really close to being good and then just didn't quite connect for me. Maybe I missed something. I don't know. I'll have to like go back and read other people's reviews to see if there's some deeper meaning I missed, but yeah, I don't know. Not for me. But it was better than Armageddon Time, which fucking stinks. Armageddon Time sucks. I'm sorry. I love Anne Hathaway, but that movie is garbage.
Wait, is that the one with Henry Styles in it? Is that one of his movies?
No, that's My Policeman.
No. Oh, okay, got it.
Armageddon Time is the one about a boy growing up in New York and sort of the director's life story. So when they interviewed him on that Big
White
Picture,
Guilt, the movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
I can't. Anne Hathaway really became her for me once I saw Ocean's 8 and realized how she was just coming off. I think she was just being pregnant. Whew, that was a very sexy white woman that I did not realize that it was that good looking, even though everybody else already knew she was good looking.
Sir,
Lord.
I love her.
She has always been her since The Princess Diaries. Thank you very much.
I never saw it until I saw her walking around with them pregnancy boobs. Oh my Lord.
I love her. Woman. She's great. And like her performance in the movie is like good for what it is. But yeah, that movie is one of those like where the director is doing like a semi-autobiographical situation or whatever, like a fictionalization about how he grew up. And the problem is that like his life wasn't very interesting. His parents were just like kind of racist, and that's like it. That's the movie.
How do you cope with your parents being semi-racist?
Well, like he doesn't even cope with it. It just like he just says, "Hey, my parents were racist," and then the movie is over. And like, oh, okay, thanks.
This is the same guy that made "I Miss My Dad in Space" Ad Astra, by the way. James
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, he's 0 for 2 with me.
Let me tell you right now that The Fabelmans is not going to be as good as Tar. It might win Best Picture. I'm not saying that it won't. But
there's no way that it's going to be as good as Tar.
It's not going to be as good as Tar.
I don't know, guys.
The bar is high. The bar is extremely high. And much due respect to Steven Spielberg, that shit is not going to slap like Tar.
That looks like my kind of white people carrying on. That looks like
man, I know I'm going to enjoy the movie, but there's no.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Like there's no way as good as Tar. If it is as good as Tar, then this will be like the craziest top 5 movie year that we've had in ever. Honestly.
Real Cinema Hours will really be back if The Fabelmans is as good as people are saying, and we have Fabelmans versus Tar. We can really say that Real Cinema Hours have returned, and the pandemic can't stop us.
2022 would be like one of the best like years for movies that we've had in a long fucking time. If The Fabelmans is as good as
I will bet.
Please, Fabelmans.
I will make a bet on here right now that The Fabelmans. That Spielberg will at least win Best Director. If not, it sneaks in and wins Best Picture just based on like a last hurrah for for Spielberg, even though he's not far from done. He's got like 18 projects in the works.
If
But
The Fabelmans is that good, they're going to split best screenplay, best director, best picture between the two of the films. And some people are already doubting that Tar will win best picture. I haven't seen a movie better than it. And you know how much I love Everywhere, Everything, All at Once. I haven't seen a movie better than it, so I can't wait to see what else we get from the field.
I will bet good money that it comes that kind of Hollywood nostalgia porn. That may
they do love that. They do love that.
Yeah,
that may win the hearts of all the olds in the Oscar voting. So that's all I'm saying.
And a lot more people are going to see the Fabelmans than have seen.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Way more regular people will see the Fabelmans than Tar, which might help it. It might not. I don't know. But Cate Blanchett is really her, and I feel like if she's on the ground, like out in the streets for this one, like Tar has a chance. The Everything Everywhere All at Once crew, they've been out here in these streets at every fucking event, talking to everyone.
They need to win an Oscar. There needs to be
telling everyone about how dope their movie is and about how much fun they had making it. So like, that Best Picture nomination is coming. Like the hater said, it couldn't be done.
I need it.
That seems like one that'll sneak in there, and the Daniels will win like best screenplay over Todd Field, like kind of like Taika did. You
got to give them best editing or something. Like they were crazy in that movie.
That editing was crazy, bro. That editing was incredible. I give them best editing for sure.
Anyway, like T, do you have anything else that you've been like watching other than college football?
It's Black Panther hours, brother. I'm in there tomorrow. Dex is in there tomorrow. Yes, Roy, are you in there tomorrow?
I'll be there tomorrow.
We in there tomorrow. We'll be back for Black Panther. We should probably record on Sunday, y'all. Get Black Panther out the way. Real Cinema is back, bros. Real Cinema is back.
There's 2 Netflix movies that I watched that you could probably check out. One that I really liked, and one that is just a nothing film. The Good Nurse, sure, okay. One nurse was good, one nurse was bad, which is really weird.
Academy Award winner,
because it has really talented people in the movie, and it just is like nothing
Eddie
film.
Redmayne too?
Yeah, Eddie Redmayne playing an actual real life person for the first time, like not a real life person for the first time, but a person not based in the early 1900s for the first time in his career. Not dressed as a Victorian child.
Yeah, I was going to say he's not like fighting the French Revolution or something.
Right. So just as a modern day person, Eddie Redmayne and Jessica Chastain, really talented people involved with that film, and it just felt like a 1990s made for TV movie. Like who gave a shit? Anyway, and then another one that's a little bit more elevated than that was The Stranger on Netflix, which if you search this, there's like 18 The Strangers on Netflix for some reason, but it's the Australian one with Joel Edgerton. So it's that one and Sean Harris from Mission Impossible fame, the villain that whispers the entire time.
I started watching Dark finally. I watched the first episode. I already see exactly what y'all talk about. That shit is so compelling.
Ooh, so good.
I don't know what the fuck is happening, but I am enthralled. That shit is great. I'm already into it, but I'm only watching one episode.
If you haven't seen Dark, go watch Dark. Because $18.99 is
Dark.
coming out
I gotta
soon.
get on that shit.
I was gonna take is one episode, Dex. I watched the first episode. I was like, how have I never watched this? I need to know everything about this shit.
I got to get back on The Peripheral on Prime Video. I fell off, but apparently that shit has really picked up.
And it's got a lot of style. I see why people are excited about the new show because they have a particular style that they're doing, and it is so far very cool to me. I'm into it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Go watch The Stranger. It's about a cop that puts a suspected child murderer into a scenario called the Mr. Big scenario, which sounds crazy, but it is a real thing that cops have done before, where they try to get you to confess by making you seem like you are more important to a criminal conspiracy than you actually are, and they basically entrap you. But
This sounds phenomenal.
It is really, really interesting. I've never seen it played out like that in a movie or a TV series. So check it out. Sean Harris is insane. It's awesome. So watch that if you want to.
That sounds amazing. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah. So there's that. Anything else?
Nope. That's
Go
what we're doing.
Astros. World Series.
Oh yeah.
champions,
How about
baby.
how about that?
Don't start this,
See, that
please.
man, that's tough, right?
That's tough.
stinks.
I fucking.
Aaron Judge gonna be an Astro. That's
Aaron Judge, future Astros legend.
No, y'all need to stop this right now. Please. Stop this right now.
Y'all rise.
Oh
Hell
my
yeah!
God.
Get with the
y'all.
winning team,
Y'all
bro.
rise is hilarious. I have seen that on the timeline. That's really funny.
We need Aaron Judge to go full KD and be like, "Fuck it, I'm going to the Astros." Like,
There is
make us
not,
the fucking monstars.
Baseball Twitter would lose their minds. There's not many of them out there, but there's enough on my timeline that would be like, "Oh, but
dozens of us, dozens."
Oh man, being a champion twice over feels really, really good.
Feels great. Being a two-time World Series champion.
How could you root for that team? I find it very easy and relaxing, to be completely honest with you. Anyway, you can check us out at One Take Pod on Twitter, One Take Pod on Instagram, TikTok, the like. Go like, download, subscribe. Thank you to those who have left a couple of ratings on iTunes. We need you to go and leave those ratings on Spotify too, as well. But yeah, we're getting a few more ratings on iTunes. We really appreciate those 5-star ratings, keeping our ratings high on there. So bless up. Thank you for that. And yeah, just go follow us on at Roy Ogletree, at Les_Humble_Teej, and at Lord Dex Hinton on Twitter. Like, download, subscribe, leave a rating and review, and we will thank you very kindly on this. We used to say that we would like review a movie that you would leave in the comments. We may still do that, but it is real movie season. Boy season
there's
coming out.
actual things coming out. So
yeah, it's gonna be real cinema hours, guys.
If you would have done that 3 months ago,
we would have
loved
loved
nothing
it.
in July. Yeah. So we appreciate that. Teej, what podcasts are you doing? I started listening to the latest Slander You, which
Slander You still up and going.
I don't like the way you talk about my football team.
Football hours are back. I was also on Between Two Bears this week, which is a Baylor podcast. I was on that this week as well. And we're podding. Pods are happening.
Oh God, I cannot. There's a lot of slander on the horizon
for somebody. I don't know, but there's gonna be the way it's setting up in the Big 12. There's about to be a lot of slander flying around. Hopefully, I'm not at the brunt of it like usually happens. Hopefully, this year my luck can change. We'll see.
But it doesn't matter. Basketball school, both of us.
Basketball school, baby.
So no matter what happens, we can always fall back on that. Thank the Lord. Anyway, Dex, any articles coming up?
I just did a Frasier versus Cheers comparison over on Screen Rant. I'm doing. I think I'm doing
Frasier
something
as a
about
superior show because Frasier.
Yes, because that's exactly what. Yep,
yeah,
it's definitely superior in every fucking way. Yep. And
every old is screaming at you.
James Bond, and when the next one might be announced, hint it'll be a long time from now. And then I also got one about the new Ana de Armas movie, the John Wick spinoff coming out soon. So stay on the lookout for that.
A movie or a TV show?
Movie.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be a spinoff into a TV show.
They're doing other TV shows. I don't remember about what, but Ana de Armas would be a movie.
There's a show about the Continental, but I think there's also movies. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, check me out.
All right, guys. That has been a One Take Pod on Lydia Tarr. Thank you very much to Lydia Tarr, a very real person, for letting us discuss her. We really appreciate her genius, even though she's maybe a problematic fave. We'll never know.
Problematic fave, Lydia Tarr. It's fashion icon.
Real
menswear is back.
You're gonna like the way you look.
Real menswear is back.
Hashtag support Florence Pugh.
We're out.